Welcome, everyone, to issue number 15. The topic for today is who you are today is not who you will be tomorrow. All right, so today I was thinking about, this morning, about who I am today in relation to my body, of course, which is this ever-present thing in my mind because I'm constantly working out, constantly exercising, constantly thinking about food, supplements. Am I going to do exogenous ketones? Am I going to, I have all these research questions, ideas, things I'm doing for a month at a time, 2 months at a time. And so I'm really focused on that, obviously, in the midst of focusing on my business, my family, my spiritual connection. and I'm seeing so many results there and so much change there that it's easy for me to talk about the change in my body because it relates to the rest of my life. And so it's really clear to me that who I am today, right, is not going to be who I am tomorrow in my body. And who I am today in my business is not going to be who I am tomorrow in my business. Who I am today in my personal life with my wife and my children, or my spiritual life. Again, that applies everywhere, right? Why is it that that life seems to change, that we either go up or down, right? That it's very difficult to sort of stay even in our lives. And I was having these thoughts the other day thinking about what that means. Where does that come from? How is it possible that, I've heard all of my life, you're either growing or you're falling behind. Why is that the case? Why can't I just stay even, right? I mean, there's a possibility to just to stay who I am. Here's the problem. The community, the universe, the world is ever expanding. That's the issue. The people around us, the world, the understanding, the level of information, the level of growth is constantly going up, right? Who we are as a society today is not who we were 10 years ago, or 25, or 50, or 100, or 500, or 1,000, right? We are constantly growing in our expansion. Now, that growth doesn't necessarily mean positive or negative. It's not in those kind of connotations. It's not that we're better now or worse now or any of that kind of crap. And obviously, we're, in many ways, we're extraordinarily better human beings now than we were 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, 200 years ago. But my point about that is that society, community, society, the universe, the universal kind of thought of human beings is constantly expanding. It's on like a constant line up, right? It's just the nature of humans, nature of humanity, right? We constantly gather information. We constantly expand. Well, if you aren't expanding at the same rate that the world's expanding, then you're falling behind. That's the point, right? If you stay steady and don't challenge yourself and don't ask questions and don't work at being a better person, work at expanding your understanding, work at expanding the information that you can consume, work at getting better in these areas of your life, then the community will leave you behind. And I've seen that in the 10 short years that I've been practicing law. When I started practicing law, advertising on the internet was not hugely sort of interwoven in the business. And I began to do it early then. And I had tremendous success with it because I was the only one doing it in some areas, in some locales. I was the only person on the internet. And so you would do an internet search for my name, for a criminal defense attorney in the area that I lived in. And I was number 1, number 3, number 4, number 7, number 9 of the top 10. The pages of my website, because no one else was doing it. Well, fast forward 10 years. Everybody's doing it. It's very difficult to own a space like that anymore, right? It's very difficult because the information, the idea, the thoughts about doing that have permeated the practice of law and permeated the small firms. And so the community has expanded, and I've had to adjust what I've done in my practice in order to continue that expansion as well, right? In order to make sure that I am expanding at a rate that's faster than the community. Well, how do you do that? So that's the point, right? That's the point of today's topic is how do you assure yourself that you're staying ahead of the curve, right? We know what that means, right? To stay ahead of the curve, right? And that curve is that natural expansion. So how are we staying ahead of the curve? Well, here's the thing. One of the ways that this manifests itself in life is the repetitive issues that come up in our lives. And so, I remember being a young person, I remember a month ago, I remember being a young person, it was more prevalent back then in my life, of saying, why am I having this repetitive, like, why am I dating the same girls? Like, every time I get this girl and then everything goes crazy and I find a new girl and it's just the same thing. Well, I mean, eventually I realized it was me, right? I mean, I was the constant in that equation, right? It was me. I was the one that was not changing, right? I was the same guy every time, right? I entered into the same relationship every time because I was the same guy every time, right? And I wanted to point the finger and say, "Oh, man, I just keep picking these same girls. I'm baffled by this," right? Or I would, I remember bouncing, making overdrafts in my bank account every month. And I would say, well, I pay all my bills. I make enough money. Why am I overdrafting every month in my bank account? Every month, and then put more money in, and it's fine, and I'm positive, and I pay. And then the next month, I do the same thing. It's like, well, why is that happening? Man, I'm just totally baffled by this. Well, guess what? Crazy? I was there the whole time, right? I was the same one doing the same thing, taking the same acts, right? I was on this sort of path of not doing anything, right? Not taking any action, right? And so the way to go about this expansion for me is to recognize the problem, right? There's really three parts here. Recognize the problem. I see that this is an issue. It's a problem. It's an opportunity for me to get better, okay? Find a solution. What's the solution to that problem, right? What's the solution? Where can I grow from this opportunity? Now that I've recognized this problem and I've seen this opportunity for growth, how do I grow? Collect the information, right? From the internet or from mentors or friends or books or wherever I get it from, the church, anywhere I get it from. Where do I get the information to take an action, right? Where do I find the solution? And then the third step is do something, right? I was really good at A and B for a long, long time. Really good at it. I could think about problems all day long, and I'd be like, that's not a problem. That's an opportunity for me to get better. All right, what's the solution? Man, look at this fancy solution. You know what I think I'll do? I think I'll write this solution down. I will make a list of things that are the solution to this problem. And then I would look at the list, I'd be like, man, that is an awesome list. I'm definitely not going to have this problem anymore because I have this fancy list right here. There's just no way I'm going to have this problem anymore. I put that list over here on the table, and when I need to refer back to it, I'll do so. And that was it. Like I wouldn't do anything else. like I thought writing the list and thinking about it was a sufficient solution, right? Even in things that don't lend themselves to direct acts, right? So, for instance, my bank account, paying bills, right? Paying bills on time. Well, I could write down, okay, pay the bill on time. But what other act other than paying the bill on time was there to do, right? It's like, well, what other act can I do? If there's an action step, what is it? And I used to think this. I used to think, well, there's no other action step. I'm just going to, maybe I'll pin this list in front of me. I'll put it on the computer. I'll put it right on the wall right here. And then I'll really remember it. But it wasn't about that. It wasn't about remembering it, right? I mean, I knew the days of the month. I knew when the first of the month came that I had bills to pay. It's nonsense, right? When I started to take acts that sort of manifested those desires and those solutions in the real world during the weeks, that's when it made a difference. When I said to myself, okay, I'm going to open my bank account every Monday morning, every Wednesday morning, and every Friday morning, I'm going to pull up the bank account on the internet and I'm going to look and see what's going on. Now, it may seem phenomenal to some of you listening, but I would go 4 or 5 months without actually opening the bank account thing on my internet. Allowing my administrative staff to take care of that in my business and just kind of ignoring it in my life. I would look at the balance and be like, man, I need to put more money in that account. Craziness, right? Complete craziness. And so what I started to do is to find acts, find ways to do something in the world on a regular basis to make sure that it's stuck with me, these ideas and these solutions, right? And so, for instance, and here's where I've really made a ton of progress, right? And I still give some of the money stuff to my staff and my accountant and my admin. I mean, that's just the smart way to do it for me. But in body, right? There's something that I'm in complete control of, right? And so I knew when my body was out of shape, I'm out of shape. What's the solution? And I read about keto, and I read about the keto diet, and I read about this diet, and I read about that diet, and I read about, well, maybe I'll do the paleo diet, or maybe I'll do the Whole30 diet, or maybe I know what working out looks like. I've done that for many, many years. That was my favorite one. I know how to work out. I've worked out for 25 years. Well, clearly you don't, because look at yourself. Check yourself out in the mirror there, champ. You are not doing something properly. So I hired a personal trainer, a new person, some new information to come in and say, here's some new information for you, Jaron, in terms of how to exercise, right? So I found a problem. I saw the solution was exercise and diet. And so I hired someone. I took an act in the real world. And then I worked out every day. I worked out at that time, when I started in February of 2018, I worked out 4 to 5 days a week, every week, period. Then I moved to 5 or 6. Now I'm at 7. And it's not an hour and a half workout. I mean, this morning I did 30 minutes on the Peloton in my house. 30 minutes. That's it. Some mornings because I can't work out 7 days a week. I'm 49 years old. It really does get taxing on my body, especially when I lift. I lift a lot of heavy weight. And so when I'm lifting, I can't do that. And so what I do on one day of the week is I will do yoga and I'll stretch, or I'll do some body weight like push-ups, sit-ups. I'll do some lower back exercises, some core, just to give my big muscles a rest and to sort of do some core exercises and get some strength and movement and agility in. And it's 10 or 15 minutes, and that's sufficient for that day, right? But I know that I'm hitting it every day. I'm sweating every day. I'm getting my heart going every day. I'm moving the bones in my body and moving the chemicals in my body every day. That's the act. Those are the acts. That's how I put it into action, right? And look, I still, after taking those actions, I'm still looking for new solutions, right? What's the new solution? Do I need to change my diet? Do I need to supplement? You know, I read Tim Ferriss's book, 4 Hour Body, the other day. And I've completely redone what I'm doing with my body, right? I'm redoing the exercises that I'm doing. I'm redoing the way that I eat. So I'm on the slow carb diet now, Tim Ferriss's slow carb diet. I have a new set of supplements that I'm taking. And so, you know, I'm constantly measuring, let me see this new solution. Let me put this into work in the real world. And so that's really what's going on with me today is I'm not the person I am today in my body. I'm not the person I am today in any of body, spiritual life, family life, or business. I'm just not. I'm not the person today that I was a week ago, and I won't be next week, because the world's moving without me. And so I need to work at getting better in all of those areas of my life every day. And that's what's been making a difference in my life these days, is knowing, understanding that that's the case, finding the solution, and putting that solution into action. That's all I have for today. You guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.